Hello, everyone. This is Rhonda's Lovely Sparks. Welcome to my reaction video to a very important information I'd like to share with you, which is a beautifully put video named Redistribution by Four Corners Media, which we found out it's an ABC. ABC is an Australian public broadcast service. And I'm not going to speak on right now a lot about the video because the video will have a lot of information uh, that is self explanatory, which I'm going to play here and where you can also will be able to hear it and listen with facts from people who served on served on Trump's administration, people who are a part of the Project 2025, and so forth. So, of course, I'm going to have that to be self-explanatory, but I wanted to add a couple of things before I start. Again, this is Rhonda. I am with Rhonda Sibley Sparks. The name of this I'm going to play were 2 hours, and it's called Investigating Trump and Project 2025 and the Future of the United States. And I'd like to do a shout out and thank Mike Aldana for sending this to me in the email. I started watching an hour of it, and I was like, I'm gonna have to go live with this. I'm gonna have to do a movie watch, a watch of this video, and have this on the record. Um, I also wanted to share about there's a lot of naysayers, and that means people who sound like they're for Trump. A lot of the disinformation, misinformation, lies, and a lot of misleading people. And a few of them are also my associates. It could be more than a few. But then you have to ask yourself this question. Hello, Mike Aldana. Howdy, howdy. Hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. And shout out to Lola. Lola, hot sauce. Hello, my beautiful family. Good to see you all and welcome. And I want to do also a personal shout out too to Michael Aldana, who referred me to this video. He sent the video to me a couple of days ago, and I thought it was, I started getting around to it today and actually watched an hour of it off and on. And I thought immediately, I'm like, I have to go live. I have to do this. And I ran back there, put together a thumbnail. And thumbnail is of me, of course, just looking just very sad and concerned because that's the mood that this video put me in. Not because I'm afraid, it's because it's awkwardly truthful and because just watching commentary on the Harris Waltzian interview, that's wonderful. I got to check that out too. What really, thank you for being here too. Both of you, thank you so much. What really was disturbing, and that's the word for it, disturbing, was knowing that in the past, I have seen and heard and read and studied a lot of history about things like this happening. And we're always writing it off and saying, well, it's overseas. It's somewhere else. It's in a third world country. Hello, Daydream 1990s. Hello. Hello. And Tay Cowboys in the house. Hello and evening to you. Evening to everyone. Thank you so much. Great to see Tay Cowboys. Daydream 1990s. Lola Cowboys. And also Mike Aldana and my husband. Uh, what was so disturbing about watching some of that. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I picked something where, because I was looking for something solid black. I thought, let me find something with that pop of blue, my Democrat color, and let me have something that's sparkly so it can not look like such a doom and gloom, but I can have a video that's information actually, that's providing the truth, and I could still be hopeful because that's how much being an American means to me. Um, what was shocking about watching this disturbed me. It did give me some anxiety. And, I've always talked about anxiety because anxiety is a normal behavior of being human. It's managing the anxiety in a healthy way. It's being able to express it. It's being able to research. It's being able to find answers, and then learning how to manage it. Because everybody has anxiety. The good thing about having anxiety because of something like this is because it was very clear that it was something I've seen, whether I've seen it as a witness or read it historically and knowing that that's a historical fact. And then I was saying before, the name of this I'm talking about is on YouTube. And Mike Aldana referred me to it, and it's one of the most truthful, most accurate investigative information that I've ever seen so far compiled. And the name of it is called, the name of the media that put it together is out of Australia. However, very American, but it's called Retribution. And it's going to be a part one for an hour, and I'm going to cover part two for an hour. And I'm going to play this here for us to listen to and watch. And the name of it is called Investigating Trump, Project 2025, and the Future of the United States. And what this, what really caught my eye is how detailed and factual and urgent the title is. Because the idol is talking about the future of the United States. And I just watched the first hour off and on, and I haven't watched part two. So I'm going to get into that. But I do want to, get people out there, not people in the chat room necessarily, just people out there who is going to chime in, people who are passing through, non-subscribers, subscribe. Subscribe to Rhonda's Lovely Sparks. Hi, I'm Rhonda, and I'm from Texas. And saying that I'm from Texas has resonates a lot of truth to the matter, and it's also about debunking uh, the lies about Black women, about people in Texas, and putting out there that the truth is we are very highly intellectual and we're very, very involved in the voting process, even though facts do show that there are still millions of people who are registered to vote and they're not voting. And that's heartbreaking. And Lola says, "What's up, Andre?" And then Daydream says, "I can't believe Aaliyah's 23rd year anniversary was just on Sunday. Crazy. She's been gone so long, it doesn't seem like it." That's so true. It really doesn't. And Daydream says, "Hey, sorry about that Miss Rhonda roommate drama." Oh, it's okay, my love. So glad that you're here. So glad everyone's here. Thank you so much for my water. Andre brings me water. Um, it's got my water for me. These days I've been hydrating a lot with lots of ice. Usually I would just drink down, you know, my Ozarka water measured, by 16 ounces. This is equal to 2 cups, and I'll drink this down room temperature. Now my body's, no, no, thank you. Appreciate you, baby. Um, but what's been concerning to me, and I'm going to play this in just a minute, both parts one and part two. What's concerning for me is people, a lot of people out there who take this as a joke. They're not taking this seriously. And the ones who are Republican, who are playing down Project 2025, reassess your friendships. Reassess that friendship. But I'm going to let this video explain why. But there are a lot of people, like I was saying before, media and a whole lot of negativity out there that talks about or ends up every ordinary, everyday people. Trump is just playing. Trump is a comedian. He's a reality rock star. These excuses to put the flame out when there is a flame. Historically, that we learn that Putin, Mussolini, a lot of leaders, okay, a lot of them from the past who are no longer here, started small, and they started representing their territory, their country. Osama bin Laden, African leaders, Haitian leaders. They started off as being for the people. A lot of them. Well, they're going to be about for the people. Okay, thank you. They're going to be there for the people. They're going to be out there in the back of a truck helping the people harvest food. You'll see that historically, all of them started small and looked like they were for the people. And a lot of people would say, oh, Trump was a Democrat. He was. It's why you see him pandering around with the Clintons and everything, because, hey, he donated some money. They were going to turn that away. They weren't going to turn the money away. But when Trump started running for office, when he became president, he was an independent. I wouldn't even say really independent. He wasn't an independent. Let me take that back. I can say he was not Republican. The leaders of the Republican Party said, hey, you have to run on the Republican ticket. We need you. And see, the Republicans built a monster. You have a lot of Republicans that are backtracking, who are Republicans for Kamala. A lot of them are skipping town on Trump. A lot of them are backstabbing him in the back, especially the ones who got fired by Trump. And they're bitter, especially a lot of them who are in prison. And Trump has made a promise to get them out of prison from the January 6th insurrection. And yes, it was an insurrection. Well, reassess your friends. Because a lot of people say, well, politics, I'm not going to let that get away with my friendships. People like to hide behind the word politics because they have been using the word politics as something to not take serious, because they are in denial. And they probably come from some indoctrination in their family where they sat at the dinner table and they laughed at a lot of BS that their elders said and expressed. The N word, this and that, and they become very immune. And when they become immune, they are also entitled. And when they are entitled comes from the truth. Well, I'm white, and this is not about me. Racism and prejudices are different than they were, what you could say back in the day. They're just not racist and prejudiced against people who are black and brown anymore. That party also hate anybody that is against their agenda. There is infighting in gated communities. There's a lot of infighting at the veterans meetings. There's a lot of infighting in many neighborhoods. And the infighting is if you don't agree with what we say and how we feel, you are going to be casted out. You are going to be shunned. And you're going to be not us, but you chose to be against us. Therefore, you will fall under the Project 2025. So to the chat room, shout out to everybody in the chat room. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm gonna hit on just a couple more cute, not cute points, key points. And Daydream says, men have the same entitlement as these racist Caucasian people do too. Yeah. And if we're talking about men, I did some studying and some reading my whole life. And what Mike Aldana also sent me was then you see how Trump is palling around the idea that black men like him. Trump also knows that there is a percentage of people that are going to be just emotional and don't have the capacity to probably understand the agenda. And having not the capacity doesn't mean that they're not smart, doesn't mean they're dumb. It just means sometimes people have things that blinds them, whether it's blind, it's their glasses need cleaning, or their brains are just wired just awkwardly, and their ears are hearing something, but not anything that probably is smart. I mean, really. I mean, if you have Republicans are talking about guns and they plant that seed in their head, and then black men are upset because they're not going to take my guns, because he knows the percentage of black people who love hunting, black cowboys, and they're listening to the wrong thing. And then you have some that just, if they don't, if you have people who don't go out of their circle, and it doesn't mean that you have to leave your neighborhood or you have to buy a new house or you have to move to another country, because we have access to internet, so we can get and research that information. And we could research, and there's medians out there that's not Democrat and Republican, and you could listen to some quality investigative reporting that are neutral and balanced. Mike Aldana says moderate Republican to Tea Party Republican to MAGA, far right extremists. Moderate Republican to Tea Party Republican to MAGA to far right extremists. Now, listen to this. Trump got in office somehow. That means he was saying a language that people liked. When they voted for him, they liked what he said. They were feeling it. And a lot of people are embarrassed because their friends are embarrassed, because their family members are embarrassed, or because they just want to ride on the bandwagon, or for whatever reason, they've changed their mind. Because maybe Trump said one thing out of that 99 problems that I had with him. He said that one thing for someone to turn. Oh, they're talking about the veterans. They're talking about getting rid of my Social Security. Oh, they talked about John McCain. Oh, he likes Putin. It could be that one thing, but look like, from what I studied, as long as Trump was against social issues, as long as he wasn't speaking the language on equality and fairness, they liked it. Because he wasn't talking about anything that matters to Black people. They're feeling him because we need to bring order back to our country. Too much handouts. When statistically, Caucasian people are the majority who are receiving food stamps. But it doesn't matter to someone who has fingers in the ear and don't want to hear it because of entitlement. Well, I'm white and I'm born into this democracy that wasn't meant for everybody to be equal. So the food stamps is my right, for which people like that are saying. Not all Republicans, not all Democrats, not all whites, and not all Blacks, etc. But it's a language. And their language on TV and the media caters to what people hear. Whether they bumped into a Black person who drove a Cadillac and their boss is treating them pretty poorly. Well, guess what? That Black person doesn't represent all Black people. That there's some bad people of all complexions. Playing this down and ignoring this is the wrong thing to do. Because Ukraine really didn't know, even though they prepared for it for years, didn't know that things would go that far. People teased around it. They prepared for it. But no one really is 100% prepared for war. Anybody think about Ukraine? Why is America sending money to Ukraine? Because you have Republicans who want to promote division here. And so they cater to Black ears, they feel, because they've been successful. To some Black ears, that means Black people listening to them saying, well, you know, they're sending all that money to Ukraine and they ain't doing nothing here. The governing and the governments are so different and so broken down differently. And the funds that are coming from here and there are coming from different things. So start asking, where's the money coming from? Did they take money from out of Black people's pockets? Did they really take that hotel room when immigrants are coming in? Did they put them up in hotel rooms and didn't provide you housing? Or did your lazy American ass just don't give a shit until you see someone else benefiting from something that you feel that you're entitled to? No matter what, an American automatically has a lot, gets a lot of benefits from being just an American, rightful benefits that has been earned. Immigrants come over with nothing. Immigrants built this country on their backs, and everybody is an immigrant, including Trump and including his wife. So playing this off as if, oh, this is not serious, Trump is a comedian. The one thing that will make you open your eyes that Trump knows what he's doing, that he's not as dumb as you think he is when they say he, in this, you'll see, when he met Kim Jong Un in person, the leader of North Korea, he came back to America, told one of his chiefs of staff, and said, you know what? If he had a dagger in my hand, he would have. It means he's not as stupid as he likes portraying himself in public. And that's a thing, a myth that people need to get out of their heads. Is he an asshole? Yes, he's a happy asshole. He's excited about that. Is he fucked up in the head? Yeah, he likes that. Is he a thug? Yeah, he loves that. You can't put yourself in the same position as he and identify with this. You have to cut the cord and not put yourself in it and go, well, I wouldn't do that. Don't put yourself in it because it's not about how you think and your morals. This is a whole different monster that has worshiped something like this his whole life. Is to turn this into a country where he could possibly sell it out to Russia and a piece of the pie to North Korea. Can you imagine if Trump can disturb the governing and democracy of this country so deeply and elf it up so badly? Remember, I said elf it up. To me and you, it's elfing it up, but to him, this is normal. This is his norm. For him to create all this chaos benefits him. So can't you see him selling this out to Putin as long as he can remain in power in some sort? Can you imagine this turning into belonging to Putin? Project 2025 tells you that that's what it's about. Has nothing to do with scaring people. I'm trying to get you to register and vote, even though I want you to get registered and vote. I'm not trying to tell you who to vote for. I'm voting for Kamala and Waltz. But this is just getting out the truth. And it was so disturbing to me. I knew about it. But like I said, it was so beautifully put together that it inspired me to get online in a hurry. A lot of the language people have to change is, I can't believe he did that. I'm shocked. I thought I knew him. Don't be saying that. Stop being shocked. Do something. Vote. Stop saying, oh, I can't believe it. Do something. Vote. Stop saying, oh my God, I thought I knew him. When you don't. You don't. That's what I want to explain a little bit more in my intro about stop making excuses about your personal feelings, about seeing this and do something about it. Vote. And understanding the history of how dictators have taken over territory and countries and other areas. And it's always started just like this, where voters weren't taking it serious, where people who played it off and didn't care and just naturally just don't give a fuck. Let's get into this business right now. Um, I could talk forever, just do commentary on it, but this is going to speak a lot for what I'm trying to talk about. And it's clear. And again, it's called Investigating Trump Project 2025 and the Future of the United States of America. Made by Four Corners. Gotta hear this.
And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, that's the politics of politics of revenge. Their reign is over. Their reign will be over. Mr. Trump has practiced the big lie for 5 decades, and it works for him. I actually think we won most of the country. He represents a dark force in humanity.
I don't know anyone who loves their country more and is more patriotic than the president. He talks directly with the American people, which is fantastic.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath in the country.
Real estate shark, reality TV star, former United States president, now convicted criminal.
And I obliterate my competition.
There has never been an American iconoclast like Donald Trump.
Well, they're Republicans. I said, I don't give a shit. Yeah.
The American people are going to see a great era of well-being and peace and prosperity.
Millions and millions of people.
It's a once-in-a-generational chance to have the American people have a voice back in their own government.
He's a fucking idiot. He's just a fucking idiot.
Nearly 4 years on from the carnage at the Capitol, the man accused of encouraging his fellow citizens to assault their own democracy is back.
Well, look at what's happened with the J6 hostages, the hostages. We will give them pardons.
I do worry there's a real group of American citizens who are willing to engage in violence for Donald Trump.
Take a look at what happened.
Already, there's been violence, but it's been aimed at Donald Trump. A would-be assassin coming close to killing the former president. For months before this moment, Four Corners was investigating what a second Trump presidency would mean for America and the world. It's even more relevant now after this, with the defiant Donald Trump looking unstoppable in his march to the White House. In Donald Trump's vision for America, centuries-old institutions are there to be dismantled, and the checks and balances established by the Founding Fathers are impediments to absolute power.
He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one.
When he says he's a dictator for a day, he really means, look, I want to be dictator for life.
We're in the midst of a neo-Marxist revolution here in the United States, and we have to wake up to what's going on.
We pledge to you that we will root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country.
He hates political correctness, and he loves America.
We'll do anything possible.
America's broke. I'm going to fix it, and I love it.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen.
Hello, Tony Stark. Welcome.
His first term in office, Donald Trump has a detailed plan for his second coming. It involves reshaping the very pillars of American democracy. And there's already an army of loyal recruits who are prepared to carry out his orders.
We have a database with over 10,000 people from all walks of life. But we want people who've been canceled, who've figuratively given blood for the movement.
They want to bring shock troops into the government who focus on dismantling government.
If you're not on board with the president's agenda and you're in a consequential position, you need to step aside, or you need to hold your tongue.
One country, one constitution, one destiny. Those very words are inscribed inside the Capitol, in the heart of Washington, D.C. But the United States is riven, with many Americans fearing its destiny lies in the hands of a man who has little regard for this country's constitution, whose supporters trashed this place in the dying days of his presidency. Almost 4 years after being cast out by voters, Donald Trump is back, and he has a plan to rebuild America in his own image. To some, he's a savior, and to others, an autocrat. Over the next 2 weeks, Four Corners brings you a special series on the battle for American democracy.
As of today, I would say it's more likely than not that Trump is reelected.
This is one of those critical moments in history where actually the fate of the free world, if you will, rests on one man's shoulders.
If he's returned to the presidency, he's going to be dangerous. It can literally destroy our democracy.
I'm not sure the country will survive it, honestly.
I truly believe that we could be on the path to authoritarianism.
Hey, Tea Lounge. Welcome back. Shout out to everybody in the chat room. Thank you for being here.
It's September 2018, the second year of Donald Trump's tumultuous reign. And a senior official inside his administration is about to lift the lid on a White House riddled with dysfunction and disorder.
President Trump is facing a test to his presidency unlike any faced by a modern American leader. The dilemma, which he doesn't fully grasp, is that many of the senior officials in his own administration are working diligently from within to frustrate parts of his agenda and his worst inclinations. I would know. I am one of them.
What begins as a private journal soon becomes public when its author decides the American people need to know what's really happening inside the Trump administration. The highly placed official leaks his essay to the New York Times.
The root of the problem is the president's amorality. He engages in repetitive rants, and his impulsiveness results in half-baked, ill-informed, and occasionally reckless decisions that have to be walked back.
Under the byline Anonymous, the piece causes a media sensation.
We have somebody in what I call the failing New York Times.
The publication also prompts the president to order an investigation to find the identity of the author.
When you tell me about some anonymous source within the administration, probably who's failing and probably here for all the wrong reasons, an anonymous editorial, can you believe it? Anonymous, meaning gutless, a gutless editorial.
When the article came out, the anonymous article, and I read through the article, I said, wow, this guy is close enough. He really understands. He's inside the blast zone of Donald Trump.
Despite a concerted hunt for the author, Anonymous would remain just that for more than 2 years. Only after he'd resigned from the administration would he reveal his true identity.
My name is Miles Taylor. I'm anonymous. I was the chief of staff at the Department of Homeland Security.
He's the anonymous.
Under Donald Trump.
Oh.
Miles Taylor helped manage a workforce of 250,000 people. But his most difficult task was dealing with the whims of his commander-in-chief.
When Donald Trump was president, I remember crossing that threshold into the Oval Office And not only was this guy not bringing his A game, he didn't have a game. He was winging it. And the place was like, I've often described it as like a crowded New York bagel shop. It was people coming in and out and him barking orders. And you might be talking about a classified issue and someone who doesn't have a security clearance comes walking through the Oval Office and he's getting phone calls and he's telling people to tweet things out.
We spend billions of dollars in other countries maintaining their borders, and we can't maintain our borders in our own country. Is there something a little bit wrong with that?
For Miles Taylor and his Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, President Trump had a singular obsession: the southern border. During one phone call with Secretary Nielsen, Trump came up with a novel solution to stop the flow of migrants coming into the United States.
And she puts the president on speakerphone, and he says that down at the border, he wants to explore what it would take to build a moat. And he goes off on this tangent talking about how we should actually get snakes and alligators and fill this 2,000-mile moat on the border with reptilian creatures so that if someone falls into the moat, they're facing the threat of snakes and alligators after them. I mean, we're just laughing. You can't make this shit up.
What are you thinking when the president is enunciating this idea?
Yeah, he's a fucking idiot. He's just a fucking idiot. I'm a lifelong conservative. I am more Republican than Donald Trump. He is not a conservative. But putting politics aside, engaging with the man, you realize he's an idiot.
Miles Taylor is like one of the nasty girls from Glee, okay? He makes himself out to be a big deal. He wasn't. Greetings, I'm Sebastian Gorka. I served as Deputy Assistant for Strategy to President Trump. I'm the host of the America First radio show in the United States.
To Donald Trump's most rusted-on supporters like Sebastian Gorka, Miles Taylor isn't a whistleblower. He's a traitor.
This is where we do the show. That is the definition of sedition. The people choose the commander-in-chief. What he says is the order of that administration. And then you say, I'm going to sabotage it. That's a crime. That's patently obvious.
So Miles Taylor, in your opinion, should be charged with sedition?
Utterly, yeah.
Donald Trump's list of traitors is long and includes people who served him at the highest level, including a former chief of the US military and reportedly the man who was once his most senior security official.
I'm John Bolton. I was Donald Trump's national security advisor for 17 months. He tried to put me in jail for the book that I published, tried to stop the book from coming out. I think he doesn't forget his grudges, and I think the only consolation I have is that I'm part of a very long list.
In his many security briefings with Trump, John Bolton found a president who was transactional and unfocused.
He spoke on subjects that whatever kind of came into his mind. He didn't pay attention to intelligence briefings. Frequently, he was the one doing most of the talking during the intelligence briefings. It called to mind something that Lyndon Johnson once said, I don't learn very much when I'm talking. That didn't bother Trump at all. He had huge gaps in his knowledge of international affairs. He once asked White House Chief of Staff John Kelly if Finland were still part of Russia. It went downhill from there.
He's somebody who has no respect for intelligence or for those that collect intelligence, because he's somebody who doesn't like to be told the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I'm Leon Panetta, former Chief of Staff to President Clinton, former Director of the CIA, and former Secretary of Defense to President Obama.
There are few Americans who know more about the value of the US intelligence services than Leon Panetta, the CIA chief who got Osama bin Laden. He warns that a re-elected Donald Trump would present a grave threat to the security of the United States.
It won't just be the president who pays a price for stupidity. It'll be a threat to all Americans. We're facing threats from Russia, threats from China, threats from North Korea, threats from Iran, threats from terrorists. It's a dangerous world that we live in. And if a president thinks you can hide from that and not have to confront that, he'll make our country vulnerable.
I do not believe that he is capable of putting America's interests and American national security ahead of his own personal interest. I'm Pete Strzok. I was the Deputy Assistant Director of the FBI's Counterintelligence Division during the first Trump administration, and I led the investigation into Russia's attack on the 2016 election. Trump is a counterintelligence nightmare. He had very well-known alleged proclivities for pretty women. He had any number of susceptibility to flattery, a strange sort of affection for strongmen and authoritarians that were in fact intelligence vulnerabilities.
Pete Strzok was removed from the investigation into Donald Trump and alleged Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election, after it was discovered that he had disparaged the then president in private texts. In response, Trump accused the FBI veteran of treason.
Donald Trump has called you a traitor. How did that feel? It's stunning. I mean, I had never, I think I was, according to the Washington Post, I was the first person, dubious honor, that he accused of treason. Of course, treason in the United States is one of only, I think, 2 or 3 actually enumerated crimes in the Constitution, and it carries the penalty of death.
Wow.
Those who fear what lies ahead under a re-elected Donald Trump point to 2 public statements he made 5 years apart to question the former president's allegiances.
Every one of the
The first, at a summit in Helsinki in 2018, stunned the entire US intelligence community when Trump sided with Vladimir Putin on the question of Russian interference in the US election.
President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be, but I really...
Well, I remember very vividly sitting there in the front row of the audience watching this, thinking to myself, my God, what are we going to do now?
My jaw hit the floor. I mean, that is an abhorrent statement to make.
That, in my mind, was a total surrender to our greatest adversary, which is Russia. And so I'm looking at somebody who will be willing to let a tyrant do whatever he wants in the world. And that's not what America's all about.
Trump later claimed he misspoke in the press conference with Putin. But then came his second statement that shocked US lawmakers and the intelligence community, when he said this year that if re-elected, he would encourage Russia to attack NATO allies who fail to pay their way.
Well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us? I said, you didn't pay? You're delinquent? He said, yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
That is not just the stupidest statement I've heard somebody make. It also, frankly, borders on being a traitor to our country. I mean, to basically say that an enemy, an adversary like Russia, ought to be able to attack other NATO countries and that we're not going to do anything about it, I think betrays our country.
You don't pay your bills, you get no protection.
That is tantamount to inviting aggression by Russia. And you can bet that they took due note of it not only in the Kremlin, but in Beijing as well.
The NATO alliance is the most powerful military alliance in history. Forged in the wake of World War II, one of its central tenets is that signatories agree that an armed attack against one or more of them shall be considered an attack against them all.
If he carries through, as I fear he will, on his many times repeated threats to withdraw from NATO, I think it would be a catastrophic decision. The damage could be irreversible.
Russia knows that the outcome of the November election in the US will have massive repercussions for its own foreign ambitions. Most of all, its invasion of Ukraine. Donald Trump's former acting Homeland Security Secretary echoes his old boss in questioning why America has to keep paying to help Ukraine defend itself.
Overall, we'd like to see that conflict come to a conclusion one way or another. What we've seen over the last several years of the Biden administration, which is more taxpayer dollars going to that conflict without any end goal. What is the goal at the end of the day? Instead, they continue to ask American taxpayers to send our treasure, which is our funding and our taxpayer funding, overseas while we have severe challenges here at home. And I think that's when we get back to that America First approach.
If Trump were to essentially conspire with Putin to allow Ukraine to fall, he would be planting the seed for Putin moving into other democracies to try to get rid of them as well. So it's a frightening prospect.
Much has been made of Donald Trump's apparent admiration for autocrats like Vladimir Putin, Turkey's Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and North Korea's Kim Jong-un.
I'm Gordon Sondland. I served as the United States ambassador to the European Union from 2018 until 2020 in the Trump administration.
Gordon Sondland believes that a re-elected Donald Trump would be no pushover when it comes to standing up to dictators and despots.
I found two Donald Trumps. I found the show that was made for public consumption, and then I found the reality of sitting in small meetings, sitting in the car with him. I remember being with President Trump shortly after he met with Kim Jong-un, and the media was excoriating him over being too friendly, over not understanding what really North Korea is all about, as if, he was seduced by this short Korean man who is a murderer and a thug. And we were in the car, and I said, Mr. President, cutting through the bullshit, tell me about Kim Jong-un. And he looked at me with a smile and he said, if that motherfucker had a knife, he could have gored me in the stomach. That told me everything I needed to know about his soberness when it came to these people.
Trump's critics warn that he not only admires dictators, but that he wants to be one.
I want to close the border, and I want to drill. That's not.
And they point to his own words when he was asked this year about what he would do if he regained the presidency.
He says, "You're not going to be a dictator, are you?" I said, "No. Other than day one, we're closing the border, and we're drilling. After that, I'm not a dictator."
So when he says he's a dictator for a day, he really means, look, I want to be dictator for life. I want to create a dynasty here for myself and my family, and I'm a human wrecking ball.
President Trump, he's taken this whole phony narrative about dictator, which I explained to you is going to be the furthest thing from the truth. We're trying to resurrect the last smidgens of democracy here. But, he said, tongue in cheek, I'll be a dictator on two issues. One is energy, but two, the border. He's going to shut the border down. We just want to say may. We're never going to say may. Very partial to Australians. Hi, I'm Paul Dans. I'm director of the 2025 Presidential Transition Project, otherwise known as Project 2025. I previously served under Donald Trump as his chief of staff at the Office of Personnel Management in his first term.
This is Paul Dan's first Australian television interview. He heads a coalition of conservative groups that's planning to help Donald Trump reshape democracy. and to give him more power than any other peacetime president in American history. It's known simply as Project 2025.
Just to be clear, is it officially aligned or sanctioned by his campaign?
It's not officially. We are over 107 major organizations as a coalition coming together. So many of us did come from prior service in the Trump administration.
There's even a 920-page publicly available playbook outlining plans to transform the presidency, including to give Donald Trump unprecedented reach to take on his political enemies.
This book, this agenda, the entire Project 2025 is a plan to unite the conservative movement and the American people against elite rule and woke culture warriors.
Project 2025 accuses this ruling class of faceless civil servants and unelected mandarins of thwarting Donald Trump's first-term agenda. To the former president, it's a cancer in the heart of American government that he calls the deep state.
Either the deep state destroys America or we destroy the deep state. That's the way it's got to be.
Now, when we came in, I didn't use the phrase deep state. I thought it was a little bit tinfoil hatty, and no, I'm not going to use that. But then I saw it. It is stunning how the unelected bureaucracy thought they had a right to blockade a man chosen by 63 million Americans to be the president. It was stunning. It's truly stunning.
They want to disband or let go tens of thousands of government employees. They've got their legions of followers believing this great paranoia that we live in a deep state society, which is, of course, a bunch of complete nonsense. I'm Anthony Scaramucci. I was an acquaintance of Donald Trump for 20 years. When he was elected as president-elect, he named me to a 16-person executive transition team. And for 11 days in the White House in the month of July of 2017, I was his communications director.
From being a supporter and a mouthpiece for Donald Trump, Anthony Scaramucci is now one of his fiercest and most outspoken critics. He believes Project 2025, with its plan to stack the public service with an army of Trump loyalists, will propel America into a dystopian future.
These are nonsensical un-Americans. Okay, they're against the values that the society has lived by. They're going to stress the system in a way that it hasn't been stressed since the American Civil War, and it's going to be hard on the country because we're polarized.
On Inauguration Day, the 4 years ahead
Seems like an eternity.
it's not, because the left has engineered our government and institutions.
To reject conservative ideology. The 2025
Project 2025 is a new paradigm in helping a conservative president be ready to govern day one. This is really an attempt by us as a movement to come together and get ready. It's a preparation.
And preparation has been underway for more than 2 years.
Our goal is to assemble an army of aligned, vetted, trained and prepared conservatives to go to work on day one to deconstruct the administrative state.
Project 2025 isn't some rabble operation. It's run by the influential and conservative Heritage Foundation.
We fight for America.
And it's already started vetting and training thousands of possible Trump appointees from across the United States.
We will succeed.
We don't want the most successful person. We want the person who keeps getting knocked down and is indefatigable. I mean, I actually think of Aussies a lot like that they're always popping up to the top and they have this kind of shit-eating grin on their face. And it's like, that is like the kind of happy warrior that we want.
And have you got people signing up? You've got recruits on the
yes, very much so. We have a database with over 10,000 people from all walks of life, entering into this, aspiring to serve.
What Donald Trump wants is our political stooges who will be loyal not to the office of the president, but to the person of the president and whatever his dreams or whims are. My name is Erica Newland. I was an attorney at the Department of Justice under Donald Trump, and now I work for Protect Democracy, where I try to protect our country from the authoritarian threat.
Erica Newland has investigated Project 2025, and she says it will deliver Trump a band of loyalists eager to carry out his agenda. What sort of questions do they ask potential appointees?
Here, let me read you a few of those questions. They ask them to weigh in on whether the president should be able to advance his or her agenda through the bureaucracy without hindrance from unelected federal officials. And that's a dog whistle, of course. And then they ask whether you agree that the federal government should recognize only two unchanging sexes, male and female, as a matter of policy.
So what do those sort of questions say to you about the sort of people that Project 2025 wants to recruit?
They want people who are unswervingly loyal to the Trump agenda, to his vision, and to him as a person, as well as to his and the movement's goal of subordinating those who don't look or sound like them.
And what will be left will be
There you go.
the grifters and the sycophants. Whatever his worst impulse is of the day, they will facilitate it and will enable it. Hi, I'm former Congressman Charlie Dent of Pennsylvania's 15th Congressional District. I served nearly 14 years in the Congress, 7 terms, and I did have a few run-ins with our former President Donald Trump.
Charlie Dent was one of the few Republicans in Congress who stood up to Trump as president.
I'm afraid if Trump were to win in 2024, those types of people, those adults, those people who would try to, put some checks and restrain the worst impulses on the president won't be there.
The central principle behind many of Project 2025's policies is that a democratically elected president is the American people's proxy, meaning it's the job of the thousands of unelected civil servants to carry out Trump's orders without question.
The great challenge confronting a conservative president is the boldness to bend or break the bureaucracy to the presidential will.
You do have the First Amendment, but you can't encourage people to do acts that are in contravention of the Constitution. You can't come into administration and then sabotage the things the man elected by the people has said we will do.
What we saw during the Trump administration is you saw career officials disagreeing with the president, disagreeing in the sense, and even going so far as to say, I'm going to disrupt or sabotage your agenda. I'm just looking at you. Okay. I'm Chad Wolf. I'm the former acting secretary of the Department of Homeland Security under President Trump. I'm the current executive director of the America First Policy Institute.
Former Cabinet Secretary Chad Wolf remains a Trump loyalist and is ready to serve once again if his old boss wins in November. The America First Policy Institute he now leads is full of pro-Trump populists who all share Project 2025's vision of a civil service stacked with true believers. To achieve this, they're proposing a re-elected Donald Trump brings in what's called Schedule F, an executive order that would allow the president to fire people at will.
And the idea with Schedule F is very, very simple, which is if you're in a policy-making role and you're working against the president, we have the ability to remove you because that's how it should be, right?
After a campaign was launched by the Democrats warning of the dangers of Project 2025 to democracy, Donald Trump tried to distance himself from the group, insisting he knows nothing about it, despite reports his campaign has been briefed by its officials.
Have you spoken with President Trump? Do you have a relationship with him?
Well, sure. In my personal capacity, I'm a Trump supporter and have been down in Mar-a-Lago many times. But we have integration with folks on the campaign. The reality is, yes, we often supply ideas and ultimately we hope to offer personal suggestions. This is really going to be the engine room for the next administration. Many of these folks served and will be called upon to serve again. And I know President Trump's team will be receptive of it.
And Donald Trump will need an army of true believers if he's to implement his agenda.
We will reverse the Biden ban on natural gas exports. We're going to drill, baby, drill. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to drill, baby, drill. We'll drill, baby. Thank you very much. I will pass landmark legislation if India, China, or any other country hits us with a 100 or 200% tariff on American-made goods, we will hit them with the same exact tariff. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto our children.
But Trump isn't just vowing to shake up policy. He's also promising to settle scores.
I am your warrior. I am your justice. And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution. I am your retribution.
In Donald Trump's mind, there is no bigger target for retribution than the very agency that administers and enforces the law in the United States. And he's vowing to dismantle this key pillar of democracy, the US Department of Justice.
It's hard to find the most problematic agencies, but I think you'd have to put DOJ at the top. The reality is that agency is one of the key extensions of the deep state.
So when I came in and I realized the deep state is real, and I realized of all of these agencies and departments, the DOJ is the worst. The DOJ is a viper's nest of politically motivated individuals who see it as their fiefdom to serve the Democrat Party and their buddies.
We will completely overhaul the corrupt Department of Justice to clear out all the communists who have weaponized government activities.
Erica Newland says she's seen the weaponization of the Justice Department already. As a lawyer in Trump's first term, her team worked to make sure his presidential executive orders were legal. The office handled orders like the so-called Muslim ban and the building of a wall along the border with Mexico.
That was extremely hard. I was helping an administration, a president who did not have any concept of democracy, who did not have any respect for the law.
Trump's supporters accused the DOJ of targeting the former president with bogus investigations and of stymieing both his first-term agenda and his bid for re-election.
Donald Trump has promised that if he becomes president again, he would harness the Department of Justice to go after the people he perceives as political enemies or as somehow disloyal.
I will appoint a real special prosecutor to go after the most corrupt president in the history of the United States of America, Joe Biden, and the entire Biden crime family.
And then there's the long list of those he is accused of treason. We've talked about Trump pursuing his enemies. One of those he wants retribution against is the sitting president, Joe Biden. He said he will appoint a special prosecutor to go after Joe Biden. Do you think he'll come after you as well?
I think there's a chance of that. Nobody can accurately say how far Donald Trump would be willing to go after his enemies and what he'd be willing to do to them.
Donald Trump is an authoritarian threat to this country. There's a playbook that authoritarians use. They aggrandize executive authority. They politicize independent institutions. They quash dissent. They spread misinformation. They target vulnerable communities. They corrupt elections, and they stoke violence. Donald Trump has engaged in all 7 of these.
The former president has also hinted he would ignore America's most sacred document, the Constitution.
Do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner? Or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution.
He said, his words, that he intends to terminate parts of the Constitution. He didn't say which parts. He said he's going to be a dictator. And then he said, day one. What does that even mean? The Constitution does not provide for that. I'm Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren. I represent the 18th Congressional District in California. I served as a manager for the first Trump impeachment, and I served as a member of the January 6th committee that uncovered the fact that Trump was at the center of a wide-ranging conspiracy to overturn the American government.
Veteran Democratic Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren says it would be folly to brush off Donald Trump's apocalyptic rhetoric as hyperbole or showmanship.
He said that he plans to send the military out into the country to round up people like us who look like immigrants and put them in camps. So it's a shocking proposal. But one of the things I learned serving on the January 6th committee is to take Trump at his word, because he does mean to do what he says.
The Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals.
One message that Donald Trump repeats over and over is the danger posed by undocumented migrants coming over the US southern border.
I think the real number is 15, 16 million people into our country.
It has become a rallying cry of his presidential campaign.
They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. They poisoned mental institutions and prisons all over the world. They're pouring into our country.
Well, poisoning the blood, that's a Hitler-esque statement.
But the man who was in charge of the border under Donald Trump defends the former president's rhetoric and says he's merely tapping into a deep fear about the type of people crossing into the United States.
When you see the public safety threats and the national security threats coming across that border, you see gang members from Venezuela. These are all individuals that ICE and Border Patrol pick up on a daily basis. These are bad individuals.
We are the only developed nation in the world that has no borders. These numbers are quite, for normal countries, these numbers are hard to ingest.
But how is it poisoning the blood of the country? I want to understand that.
Well, many ways. Fentanyl, because of Biden's border policies poisoning literally the blood of our nation. 110,000 Americans died of drug overdoses and fentanyl. Just think of that for a second.
The number of undocumented migrants coming over the southern border has surged under Joe Biden. According to government figures, of the nearly 8 million people stopped at the border in the last few years, around 100,000, or just over 1%, were convicted criminals.
When I return to the White House, we will stop the plunder, rape, slaughter, and destruction of the American suburbs, cities, and towns. We'll stop the invasion on our southern border and begin the largest domestic deportation operation in American history.
This is sort of stuff that I find repulsive.
The Trump travel ban.
When you're talking about deporting 15 million citizens, who the hell are you? And even if they're not citizens, even if they're illegal, are you going to run around the country in some armored car like we're in The Handmaid's Tale?
He said very clearly, I want to engage in the biggest mass deportation program in American history. How do you even begin to put forward a program and enact it?
Well, I think it's interesting. Let's talk about deportations a little bit, because I think those on the left hear that and say, oh my God, that sounds terrible. I don't understand how that sounds terrible. The idea of deporting individuals, removing individuals, or repatriating individuals that, again, don't have a legal right to be here, or perhaps are here because the law has been abused to get them here, they need to be removed from the country.
Donald Trump's rhetoric in the lead up to this election has invoked bloodbaths and bedlam. He's spoken of retribution and revenge, and he's promised to dismantle and destroy. Having been here for a while, I get the very real sense that the shock and the violence of Trump's language has worn off for many Americans. But to those who know the man, there's a very real fear that a re-elected Donald Trump could just deliver on what he says.
Donald Trump knows how to invoke emotions in people. He knows how to trigger that dark side of the human spirit. My name is Temidaya Ganga Williams, and I served as Senior Investigative Counsel on the House January 6th Committee, which investigated the facts and causes surrounding the attack on the U.S. Capitol January 6th.
Insanity! They broke through, it's on! You better run, cops!
The 6th of January 2021 marked the lowest point of Donald Trump's chaotic presidency. Refusing to accept his defeat at the hands of Joe Biden, Trump told his supporters to march on the U.S. Capitol.
We fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Leading up to the attack, he had knowingly lied about the election. Donald Trump did not think he won the election. He, in fact, knew he lost the election. He told people in his close circle that he had lost the election. So what he did instead, rather than accept the results, is that he fed lies to his supporters day in and day out, and he basically whipped them up into a frenzy.
Holy shit! At least 5 people died in the attack, while more than 140 police officers were injured.
Rubber bullets everywhere.
Democratic Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren was in the Capitol building as the mob surged in.
I think we came very close to the vice president being killed and probably members of Congress being killed. The rioters have made it clear that's what they intended to do. We came very close to an actual overturn of the government. And clearly that's, Trump celebrates that.
Donald Trump denies inciting the January 6 riot and describes the House committee investigation as a witch hunt. But after the attack on the Capitol, many of Trump's closest confidants deserted him, believing he would never again be a political force. Now, even those like Gordon Sondland, who served Trump, who was fired by Trump, who even testified against Trump, and who said he could never forgive him over January 6, are coming back into the fold.
Many people are agonizing over this choice. And do you forgive Donald Trump for what he did on January 6th and vote for him knowing that for 4 years the country was in fairly decent shape?
So you're voting for Trump?
Absolutely.
The man you could never forgive.
Exactly. That's why it's such an agonizing decision. And I hope he learned his lesson from January 6th.
In the lead-up to this November's election, Donald Trump has repeatedly promised that he would use his presidential powers to pardon hundreds of people convicted over the Capitol riot.
We will treat those people from January 6th fairly. We will treat them fairly. And if it requires pardons, we will give them pardons.
So you believe they're hostages like President Trump?
Absolute political prisoners, utterly.
And you agree with the pardoning of them? If
anyone who didn't, hit a policeman or, break through the doors, utterly, completely full and unconditional pardon. Absolutely.
Emboldening the former president even further was a Supreme Court ruling this month that Donald Trump has broad immunity from prosecution for official acts carried out in his role as president. In a dissenting opinion, one justice warned that the president is now a king above the law. The decision almost certainly means Donald Trump will not go to trial on charges of subverting the 2020 election before this November's poll.
If the case is unresolved, he could direct the Department of Justice to not proceed with the charges. the new attorney general could order that and could dissolve the investigation. And I think it makes the election its own kind of jury, because I think the American people will have to make a determination as to his culpability without the benefit of a jury going first.
Hello, welcome back. Hey, he's Skype now, 2D. Well, that's good. We can talk about Iran with him.
What seems certain is that the next heads of crucial departments that oversee the treatment of immigrants or insurrectionists will be chosen by Donald Trump's most trusted allies.
His article was strange.
That could very well include Sebastian Gorka, who's already spoken to Trump about a possible role.
I said to him, sir, most exciting for me would be national security, but the most important would be personnel. We know who the real Trump supporters are, who America First are. You know, the John Boltons who were brought in and then can't wait now to go on CNN to slag off the president. The John Boltons of the world will not be inside the building now. But it is the most important thing. God willing, if we win, personnel.
Doesn't the president, though, if it's Donald Trump or whoever, need people in there who will challenge his view and sometimes say, no, Mr. President?
This isn't a question. No, this is not a question of yes men. This is not having subversives.
In his inaugural speech in 2017,
Please raise your right hand.
the newly elected president, Donald Trump, vowed to end what he called American carnage.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of...
Instead, his reign brought American democracy to the brink. Many believe that if Donald Trump once again wins office, he will push the United States over the precipice.
So help me God. Congratulations.
Donald Trump does not believe in the Constitution. He does not believe in the rule of law. He does not believe in free and fair elections. He's a liar, and he doesn't believe in America as a world leader. I think that's what will decide the next election.
You go back and read the writings of the Founding Fathers, they designed the system to elect the President of the United States as a system to weed out nefarious individuals. Donald Trump comes into the presidency intent on detonating those guardrails. He's probably going to be successful.
He's their great white hope or their great orange hope. He is the orange wrecking ball that can smash into these institutions that they feel have been unfair to them. He's an avatar for their anger, and they'll stay with him no matter what. He said once that he could shoot people on Fifth Avenue and he wouldn't lose a sliver of support. He's right.
What do you say about the potential return of Donald Trump? What do you say to your fellow Americans? What it would mean for the United States, its institutions, and of course its democracy?
I'm not sure the country will survive it, honestly. If he really does intend to do the things that he says, we would not have the kind of democratic republic that we've enjoyed for over 200 years.
And now that shots have been fired, there are fears that the great American experiment in democracy could give way to a surge in political violence.
The fear I have is that no matter what the candidates do, there are going to be people in this country who are going to be very unhappy. And that's why I worry about civil disorder. I'm not saying civil war, I'm saying civil disorder. That there could be, some kind of, violent acts that, would be really problematic for the country.
I think we're building a city on a hill. I think this is going to be a great culmination of our 250th birthday and the President Trump in office really being that beacon of democracy across the entire world. This is the greatest experiment in human history for advancing bounty and freedom across the globe.
He's a former president who led an armed rebellion against his own country. an armed rebellion that, if it had succeeded, would have resulted in the murder of sitting senators and members of Congress, and potentially the murder of his own vice president. I think we have to talk about the threat in those terms. So he's already effectively taken up arms against his own nation. The question is whether the American people are going to put him in a position of power again to finish the job. That's the real question.
Next time on Four Corners, the big issues dominating voters' minds.
So they're heading for the end of the fence, over?
Affirmative.
So the wall goes this way for about 35 miles, and it ended here.
Stop the invasion. This is an invasion.
I've been a minority my whole life. All they wanted is respect.
We've been called murderers, baby killers.
I'm being indicted for you, the black population.
It's offensive. As a black man, that is absolutely offensive.
Black men find it relatively admirable.
There are fears that once again the election result will spark threats and violence.
You're gonna be served lead, you fucking enemy communist. Classy shirts for classy ladies. Fuck Joe Biden. Fuck Joe Biden.
If we don't win this time, America is gone. America is gone.
Okay, well, I'm going to play part 2 next, so we can take a small intermission. I'm going to leave the stream live. I guess we can give each other 3 to 5 minutes, however long it takes. Taking a short intermission, then I'm going to play part 2 as soon as I get back from the powder room. I want to do a shout out to Miss TR, Mike Aldana, Lola, Tony Stark, Daydream 1990s. We just appreciate everybody being here and listening. The Tea Lounge is here. Shout out to my sis, all of them, all of you. Thank you so much for being here. Been enjoying the conversations while we watch this. And then Mike Aldana says just one person's side of where this country's towards, or where this country's going towards. And Mike Aldana also mentioned that Paul Dans, was representing Project 2025, who was speaking, resigned his position, with Project 2025. So I don't know, was he a fall guy when everything, started hitting the fan, and he was a fall guy because he spent, almost his whole life building this structure, which I heard Project 2025 started its birth during Ronald Reagan years. So there have been a long time that I feel that, not saying our Democrat politicians, but I'm saying people here in America, not everybody, but a lot of people have not taken our election process serious. And so this is a monster that just didn't start. He's been working on this, and the Republicans have been working on this for a very, very long time. As a matter of fact, just because you felt that the KKK was dismantled, I've always shared in my past lives that there's always a rebirth of a bigger dragon, a worse monster. And we did hear the message that they clearly put out. You remember when Trump said, he has nothing to do with Project 2025, he's all mixed in it. So for us, our people out there, to continue to believe these things that you hear the opposition is saying and you sit there and you still believe it, shame on you. Don't be at a point where you're just easy to agree just because someone has a mic in their hand. Okay, yeah, I have a mic in my hand, but I'm speaking from a different perspective. I'm not speaking from a billionaire status. I'm speaking on wanting to protect myself, my friends, my family, my grandchildren, my great grandbabies. That when you hear this message talking about going around and collecting people who don't think like them, and then he has this magical, these cold words, oh, we're just going to ship them overseas. How can anyone think that just because you're an American that you are exempt from that? You're not. If you're not a loyal, if you're not a loyalist, then you're a part of that group that Project 2025 hates, that will be, I feel, enslaved. The way the words look to me, I mean, he's using the words deportation. So what happens to the large population of people who don't agree with him? What will happen to them? Doesn't this sound familiar? The Holocaust? The rounding up slaves in Africa? Making profits here in America? Don't that sound familiar? You just can't put your hands in someone else to just run this country for you. Because if you come from a religion that, oh, you don't believe in voting. I mean, even there are a lot of Native American tribes who are partaking in this political process. No one's exempt. And it's like starting all over again. And it might sound like we don't like it, but there's a lot of people that love this. They love it. Make America great again has a lot of connotations for it. But for me, it means just taking it back where it used to be. And guess what? That wasn't about me being a part of the equality and fairness of the equation. Okay, I'm going to take a powder break. I'll be right back. I'm not shutting anything down. Stay right there. Don't go anywhere. I see people coming in and out. Press that, uh, smash that like. And I'm glad you all are enjoying this. Thanks, a shout out to Mike Aldana for referring me to this video. And I first saw the first hour of it earlier today, and I'm like, no, I didn't watch part two yet. I said, I can't do this right now. I can't play this alone. I have to make this as a watch party for all of us to be a part of this, and also have it to be archived in my file because it's a very interesting reference to go back and remind ourselves in case there's something that we missed, because it's a lot to dissect. Okay, I'll be right back. Be right back. See if I can play something until I get back.
If Jesus came down and was the vote counter, I would win California, okay?
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
To the vice president, and then the recent polling showed President Biden 5 points behind in North Carolina, and it's very, very tight right now. So go back to the map. It brings us to 264 to 258. Again, 270 is what you need. That's what remains. Georgia remains. It was the closest contest in 2020, decided by less than a quarter of a percentage point in favor of President Biden. Our recent polling showed the widest gap, 6 points for former President Trump over President Biden. But now that has closed. Harris has a 2-point lead in our latest poll. It's expected to be a close race. That's obviously within the margin of error, but both candidates are spending a lot of time in Georgia, and if that lead holds, she wins Georgia, she wins the presidency.
Wait, how does it go again? Oh, that's right. That's gotta hurt. And hurts it will, considering the egomaniac in question. A man whose truth social ranting has gone from unhinged conspiratorial QAnon slogans to sharing vile misogynistic slur.
And Harris and running mate Tim Walz are closing out day one of a 2-day campaign through Georgia, a state that new polling just put out tonight suggests may be winnable for her in November. Her opponent was not on the trail today, though it was just 2 days ago that the former president's campaign was saying we'd be seeing Trump on steroids, meaning more appearances in battleground states in the days and weeks ahead. Instead, with the exception of visits to Arlington National Cemetery in Detroit on Monday and a taped interview with Dr. Phil last night, the main place to find the former president has been on social media. Yesterday, he was raging against the new indictment that Jack Smith secured in the election interference case. Today, he took it to a whole other level. The former president of the United States, who wants to be the next president, is now directly spreading the slogans of the conspiracy cult QAnon, as well as posting a crude, sexist, and misogynistic slur online. Reposting, to be precise, which means he didn't come up with it himself, but liked it so much that he wanted the rest of the world to see it, which is both a gentle introduction and a warning.
So if you thought the frequency of Donald Trump's meltdowns had increased, then you'd be correct. They are relentless and compounded by the fact that his once favorite network don't seem to be playing ball with him anymore, to the point that he's threatening to take his ball and run home, hitting some buttons on the way.
Mr. President, thank you for joining us. You were truth socialing along this speech. What is your first reaction to it real time tonight?
Well, the biggest reaction is, why didn't she do the things that she's complaining about? There was a lot of complaining. She didn't talk about China. 70% of our people are living in poverty. I was there today, as you know, Brett. It's an invasion of our country taking place at our border. Well, she knows I have nothing to do with Project 25. They throw it out. I lower taxes. She's raising taxes of 4 to 5 times what people and companies are paying right now. The country will go into a depression if they do it.
Even Fox is reporting the polls are low. And he doesn't like that. And Fox is really not wanting to cover him as much as they used to, or as long as they used to. I'm playing part 2 of what we watched. There's 2 parts. And this is part 1 and part 2. Thank you all for being patient.
And he has a big hitter in his corner.
I'd like to ask Jim to come up and say a few words.
Okay. We're playing part 2.
I gotta get my hat and my gun.
Jim Chilton's ranch in Arizona's wild southern desert is at the center of a political battle that will shape the US presidential election.
Okay, sweetie. Love you.
And he has a big hitter in his corner.
I'd like to ask Jim to come up and say a few words.
Mr. President, we need a wall.
Jim Chilton's ranch is on the front line of the immigration crisis.
Oh,
America's southern
Trump's
border, where
gesture
the
for a
Mexican
photo
cartels
op at
control
Arlington National
human
Cemetery
traffic.
was a salute to MAGA.
I
Oh
carry
my
a
God.
weapon at all times. I'm a cowboy, not a wimp.
Stop the invasion. This is an invasion.
I am a son of a migrant. We gave everything to this country, from my grandparents down. All they wanted was respect.
Multitasking, Sister Ron, not paying attention to this and watching the Players Club. Thank you.
At stake for
Daydream.
voters are things some Americans once took for granted. Things that Donald Trump helped take away, like the right to abortion.
We've been called murderers, baby killers. These babies are being slaughtered. It's a Holocaust going on, basically, you know?
All right, my dear, I am very scared about November and the elections. I do fear that we will get our rights rolled back.
We need educated voters, right? Because our future depends upon it. Amen?
In communities that were once a largely united voice, political fractures have opened up.
The mugshot, we've all seen the mugshot. And you know who embraced it more than anybody else? The black population. It's incredible.
What the hell?
As a black man, as a man of faith, that is absolutely offensive.
I think Donald Trump will go down as one of the greatest presidents in history. Go Trump.
And there are warnings that come November, the chaos and the threats could start once again.
He's already laying the groundwork for it.
We're coming after you and every motherfucker that stole this election.
Already, the election campaign has seen some stunning turns. President Joe Biden has now withdrawn from the race. Here in the disunited states of America, there are deep divisions over fundamental issues like race, the economy, immigration, and abortion. But voters we spoke to feel there's much more at stake. They fear for the very future of American democracy. In the final part of this Four Corners series on the battle for the White House, we traveled to two crucial swing states, Arizona and Georgia, where the election could be decided by a fraction of the population. And we take you inside the Trump juggernaut. On this chilly morning in May, the townsfolk of Wildwood, New Jersey are preparing for a rock star arrival. A resort town on the Atlantic coast, Wildwood's population will swell many times over, with people who come to pay homage to Donald Trump. What do you love so much about Donald Trump?
He's the best. Best to ever do.
Why's that?
He's done a lot for his country, a lot more than Biden has. Biden is a piece of shit. He doesn't do shit. And our southern borders are completely wide open. We have 9 million illegals that we have no idea about invading our country right now.
Multiple killings. They're killing people. You reckon Trump can win it?
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. I got it in my blood. I can tell you right now.
These nights are what I got, because I'm really bald. Then I got Trump's hair.
Trump, baby! Joe Biden's perceived frailty has been a constant source of mockery for Trump supporters, well before he bowed out. That's not just a chant. Here, it's a merchandising slogan, and it's one of the milder ones.
Did you get this at Walmart? Who did not
you the Biden sucks, Kamala swallows. Classy shirts for classy ladies. Hey, Dad, don't panic. I got
Classy.
insights.
Elizabeth has come from the Appalachian Mountains in neighbouring Pennsylvania to cheer on her political hero and to denigrate the now outgoing president.
And obviously you're no fan of Joe Biden. What does your shirt say?
Fuck Joe Biden. I don't mince words. I'm not politically correct, and I have no love at all for the man or actually the whole party as a whole.
In 2020, you think the vote was stolen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The mail-in votes, and I truly believe that they took their time, and the political party as a whole took votes and filled them out themselves. Joe Biden, his wife, Harris, all we can do is pray. I will say, though, if we don't win this time, America is gone. America is gone.
That he has the right to say and do it.
Others here today, like Dennis, are disturbed by the unrestrained anger and bile of Trump's supporters.
Yeah. I was here last time that Donald Trump was here, and we were bombarded by these folks and their hatred and just the state of our union. Are you kidding me? Yeah. The last woman that you interviewed, did you look at her shirt? The little letters on the bottom, F you if you voted for Biden? Where is that coming from?
Among the Wildwood crowd are members of the Proud Boys, a pro-Trump far-right militant group that's been involved in political violence. They're not keen to see us or our camera. Of the people who did speak to us, every one of them offered the same reason for why they plan to vote Trump.
Well, we had a better economy, we had better jobs, everything over the whole spectrum was better when Trump was president.
Not checking tickets, folks. Head on in. Head on in, folks. Not checking tickets.
The organisers of this rally expected about 30,000 people to turn up, and we've been here all day, and they've just been streaming in hour after hour. And it should be remembered that New Jersey is a Democratic state. No Republican has won here in a presidential race since 1988.
Next to you when they met first today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Silence of the Lambs. Has anyone ever seen the Silence of the Lambs? The late great Hannibal Lecter is a wonderful man. He oftentimes would have a friend for dinner.
In a rambling 90-minute speech, Trump trotted out familiar tropes. The media is fake news, the economy has tanked, and that he is a political martyr who will sacrifice himself for America's forgotten people.
I am being indicted for you, and never forget our enemies want to take my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. And
2 months after this rally, in the state directly to the west, Pennsylvania, someone did try to silence Donald Trump.
Take a look at what happened.
A shooter opened fire, nearly killing the former president. Trump had been speaking about the stream of undocumented migrants coming over the southern border with Mexico. A key theme of every rally that he's been holding in this campaign.
We got to do something about the fact that 20 million people have come into our country from prisons, from jails, from mental institutions, from insane asylums. And they're terrorists, many are terrorists.
Jim Chilton is taking us to the Badlands at the border between Arizona and Mexico. A place far from Washington, but a place that could help decide who wins the White House.
All
all of these mountains have cartel spotters. It's outrageous to have foreigners sitting on your mountains on your ranch. It's just outrageous. On the southern end of the ranch, I have 5.5 miles of the international boundary. We've been told by the Border Patrol and the Forest Service, don't go down to the southern end of your ranch. The cartels are fighting it out on the U.S. side.
Jim Chilton isn't the only one around here packing weapons.
Be on the lookout for one of us coming up so you can flag him up. Over.
So see, out here, these work.
Yep.
When you got somebody up top. But if not, we run satellite phones.
Yeah. Send him to the fork of the road. And look up to the left. You're staying here. Over.
Roger that. What is there, 200 and...
Former soldier Tim Foley runs Arizona Border Recon, a group of armed volunteers that tries to disrupt people smuggling by tracking anyone who crosses the border.
I'll grab a drone here.
Today, with Jim's permission, they are patrolling the border zone on the Chilton Ranch.
There's two cartels down here fighting it out for this area because it's really lucrative. This is no man's land. This is where the bad guys are.
How dangerous is it, this part of the world?
If you don't know what you're doing and you stumble across the wrong thing, you're toast. That's why we come down fully armed. Carry sidearms, we carry AR-15s.
Hey, what do you say to that you're a bunch of vigilantes?
I've been called everything in the book. But on the back of my neck, I got a tattoo. It says Dilligaff, which stands for does it look like I give a fuck. And I don't give a fuck what people think about me because I know who I am and what I stand for. Way more than one. Romeo 7, Charlie.
We have a red shirt guy, two bougie guys with packs on the south side, but right up against the wall, water the east end gap. Over.
So they're heading for the end of the fence. Over.
From his base camp, Tim Foley receives reports from his armed patrol members fanned out along the border.
Roger that. Just coming over this morning, there's 500.
500
plus. He said he couldn't count it. He said he knows it was more than 500. And that's just the morning. They'll wait and get another group come through. The end of the fence.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tim Foley blames President Joe Biden and his administration of so-called woke leftists for the stream of undocumented migrants coming over the border.
They don't represent a single damn thing that I approve of or that benefits me. So I just basically went.
Hi, girl. How you doing?
From Tim Foley's camp, it's just a few hundred meters to Jim Chilton's border with Mexico and to Donald Trump's Great Wall.
President Trump was securing the border. He was building the wall. Unfortunately, President Biden made a horrible mistake. On the first day of his office, he gave an executive order stopping the building of the wall. I have 5.5 miles of the wall, and a half a mile was left, and it just stopped. This is the international boundary. This is where the cartel has been fighting for control of this trail.
So they own this gap in the wall, they control it, and they are the ones who charge to bring people in and their own drugs, is that right?
People and drugs. The drug packers go north this way. The people who are economic immigrants come through here and then walk down the road and hoping that the Border Patrol comes along and apprehends them, processes them, and releases them into the country.
For you,
this is the big problem that you have.
And it's through this gap in the wall on the Children Ranch where often hundreds of migrants pour into the United States each day.
Hola. ¿Y dónde eres?
I'm from Guatemala.
Guatemala.
Yeah.
Speak any English? A little?
Yeah.
Did you come over the border today from Guatemala?
6 hours.
6 hours.
It's nearly 40 degrees, and many of these asylum seekers approach us asking for water.
Hot?
Hambre, sed, mucho calor, desde las 8 de la mañana.
Crossing here can be deadly.
Since the 1990s, I believe about 35 people have died on our ranch, and there are huge numbers of women, if they're coming through, that get raped.
Moments after crossing, Stacey from Guatemala bursts into tears as she sees our producer Amy. Stacey's had to leave her young daughter behind. This is the place the migrants are desperate to reach. A camp where they can eat, drink, and sleep in safety. Today, it's being run by volunteer Andy Winter from Chicago.
No one would choose to do this unless they felt like there was no other option at all. Because just the route here is, many don't make it, it's brutal. It's just terrifying.
Repeatedly told that we should.
These people have just crossed this morning. They've come from South and Central America. There are also migrants here from India, Bangladesh, and Senegal in Africa.
En mi caso, conseguir
Franco and Jenny made the journey from Peru, which has been engulfed in protests and political violence for almost 2 years.
Fue duro, fue difícil. Fueron muchos días donde no podías dormir, donde no sabías nada de tu familia también. Pasaste miedo, hambre, sed, muchas cosas. Fue muy difícil.
Para ser mujer sí fue muy arriesgado porque viajé de México. De México ya fue viajar en tráiler. Me decían que habían carteleros creo. Ajá, que secuestran, que te piden dinero, no sé. Menos mal, gracias a Dios no pasó todo eso. Pero ya después viajamos un día sin comer. Teníamos que aguantarnos también del baño. Llegamos hasta una bodega y también de la bodega teníamos que ir otros 15 horas viajar hacia apachurrados con 15 personas solo en una bodega o en un camarote.
They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. They poison all over the world. They're coming into our country from Africa.
Donald Trump has made immigrants and border security key themes of his presidential election campaign.
Crime is going to be
using hate-filled rhetoric his critics describe as Hitler-esque.
We built a tremendous piece of the wall, and then we're going to build more.
When I hear Trump say the crazy things he says about this invasion, and they're sending their rapists and their murderers and they're emptying their prisons, all you have to do is spend a half hour with these people and you realize, in a heartbeat, you take them as neighbors. They're amazing, beautiful, strong people who are determined to try and stay alive and provide for their families.
Trump is Trump. He tells it like he thinks it is, and he's not a politician in the sense that he gives mealy-mouthed words and comments.
This is national security. How many of these guys that you don't know about coming across are terrorists? How many cells do we have sitting in this country right now, just waiting for a word?
This unfinished wall stands as a monument to Donald Trump's often chaotic presidency, to a leader whose grandiose vision of a wall stretching thousands of kilometres along this southern border fell victim to the reality of Washington politics and to his inability to win his own re-election. But Trump supporters say at least he tried to stem the flow of migrants, which turned into a torrent under Joe Biden's presidency.
It is obscene that Joe Biden has become the biggest human trafficker in human history. Literally, he's made the cartels billionaires overnight, and he's affected, on the worst day ever, 12,000 illegals in one day. 8 million that we know of in 3 years. Now, who are these people?
Even senior Democrats admit the border is a shambles.
The immigration system has broken down. The asylum system is no longer working as intended. People who are not genuine asylees are admitted because the law needs reform. But all the statistics show that the vast majority of people who are coming to better their lives, to work, to have hope for their family.
About 3 hours north of the Children Ranch is Arizona's capital, Phoenix. More than 40% of the population is Latino. And it's Latinos who could decide who wins in Arizona, one of the 7 key swing states.
And I'm happy to be an Arizonan. I'm proud to be an Arizonan. And I'm proud to be a Mexican American.
Democrat Lupe Contreras is the minority leader of the Arizona House of Representatives. He says Donald Trump's incendiary rhetoric towards migrants has hurt many in his community.
The Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals.
My dad came to this country when he was 12 years old. I am a son of a migrant.
Mm-hmm.
My dad's worked his butt off his whole life. My grandpa worked to the day that he became a citizen. He worked his whole life. They never asked for anything from this country. All they wanted was respect. My whole family has worked. We gave everything to this country, from my grandparents down. I don't even like to say his name. And I guarantee you, in a lot of his businesses, there's a lot of my people working there and making money for him and building his businesses. Why don't he tell them to leave? If they're pieces of whatever he says they are. I just can't stand it. It's divided our country.
At the last presidential election, Latinos helped deliver a razor-thin 10,000 vote victory in Arizona to Joe Biden. And in November, Latinos are likely to again decide the result.
Latino vote is going to be huge in this election. And that's why they keep bringing it up.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I encourage every one of my family, my friends, and my Latino brothers out there, get out there and vote.
Latinos are the largest swing voter group in America. While no fan of Biden, Eric Varela sees a dark motive behind Trump's language towards migrants.
As somebody of Latino heritage, that bothers me a whole lot. He is really good at playing the game of divisiveness, right? He's good at saying things that get people riled up.
Focus groups run by veteran pollsters have revealed a different issue increasingly motivating Latinos, perhaps more than any other this year. If you sort of had to name issues that are cooking away here in the United States that might turn votes in the presidential election, what are they?
Number one, the economy, particularly rising cost of living. This is already worth it. So it's really scary. I thought it was really
Are you ready to go?
Yes, I am.
All right,
Thank you.
Let's rock and roll.
Hi, Hi, I'm Celinda Lake. I'm a Democratic pollster and strategist. I worked on the Bill Clinton campaign and the Joe Biden campaign, successfully beating 2 Republican incumbents. And I am involved in the current presidential race. Latinos really want a good economy. They believe if you just get me the jobs, if you just get the jobs going out there, I'll make my family successful.
Corporations are making record profits all the time, but at the same time, the price of goods of any kind, whether it's food, building materials, cars, all of that is exponentially higher than it was 10 years ago. But the wages that people are making are pretty much flat, right? So all of this money is being made, but not by the people that need to spend it.
The Republican Party should always be on the side of the miracle of life.
We will not be bullied or silenced by those who seek to undermine reproductive freedom. We know that the vast majority of
There's one issue that could really hurt Donald Trump at this election, and it affects millions of women. A Gallup poll this year found 85% of Americans are supporters of abortion.
that every person in our state has the access to the care.
And in no state has it played out quite like it has in Arizona.
The eyes of the nation are on Arizona.
We've been called murderers, baby killers. They've called us death squads before. Good morning. Welcome.
This is Arizona's busiest abortion clinic, and we've come here on a momentous day. The Senate is about to decide whether abortions will be available to all women in the state.
Morning. We're here to walk you in.
Cindy Hands and her colleagues are known as escorts.
Okay.
They're volunteers who help protect women who've come to clinics here in Phoenix for abortions.
Is it your first visit here? And I like your shirt. Very nice. You're very welcome. We provide a barrier between noise and ugly language from the street from protesters, just getting them in the building safely. We're here to be a barrier of unicorn and rainbows. So it is just, if they would go away, we would go away.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
They are anti-abortion protesters who harass the escorts and try to convince women who come to the clinics to rethink their decision to have an abortion. Lynn has been doing it for more than 50 years.
It's very divisive, and in fact, these escorts, I call them death escorts. I know that a lot of them are Satanists, and they believe that every baby going into that clinic is a sacrifice to Satan, you know. I think God has a purpose and a plan for every human being he creates, and I think it's murder. But, you know, these babies are being slaughtered. It's a Holocaust going on, basically.
I'm Dr. Koyama. So the state of Arizona does require you to wait 24 hours before I can hand you the first pill. The first pill is the one that you drink here.
Inside the Camelback Clinic in suburban Phoenix, Atsuko Koyama is being run off her feet.
And do you feel like anyone's forcing you to do this? Perfect.
This clinic performs between 3,000 and 4,000 abortions every year.
Have you ever been at an abortion clinic before? I have not. Never had an abortion? Have you ever been pregnant? No. Okay. So first.
This year, the Arizona Supreme Court upheld an 1864 ban on abortion, allowing terminations only if a woman's life is in danger. There are no exceptions, not even for rape or incest.
I think the 1864 ban is unethical. It's 160 years old ban that makes no sense. That's what I think is kind of sad too, right, is that women are not respected. People with uteruses are not treated as equal citizens, and they need to continue to fight for the right to bodily autonomy and to keep government outside of the doctor-patient room. We just wanted to check in from their surgery yesterday. Is now a good time?
Arizona's Civil War era abortion ban became law again because the United States Supreme Court overturned the Roe versus Wade ruling that provided a federal constitutional right to abortion.
What I did by killing Roe v. Wade, which everyone said was impossible. Number one, we got it sent back to the states. And number two, and very importantly, I gave you now the power to negotiate. You had no power before.
In your mind, how big will abortion rights be as an issue both in Arizona but nationally in that presidential election?
The abortion issue, I believe, is a winning issue. I think the polls show that the majority of Americans do support abortion as something that we believe that every person should have the right to have.
System is now open. All those in favor, please vote aye. Any opposed, vote nay.
Dr. Koyama is watching anxiously. This vote will decide if she can continue to perform abortions.
You can raise your hands and wave them.
And as the head of this body,
So that they are seeking to raise awareness. Yay! Thank you. So this is that in their honor.
So you've won a battle, but the war's still raging, isn't it?
I am very scared about November and the elections. If there is another Trump presidency, I do fear that we will get even more of our rights rolled back.
Yeah.
In 2020, Joe Biden defeated Donald Trump in Arizona by just 0.3% of the vote. Once again, it's expected to be a tight race in November.
This little clap noise. So just don't catch my nose. It gets in so many things.
And there's one veteran Republican in this state who knows what it's like to deal with candidate Donald Trump.
Get some water if I'm going to do a short answer. My name is Rusty Bowers, and I'm the former Speaker of the Arizona House of Representatives in the United States of America.
Rusty Bowers was one of the most senior Republicans in the state, so Donald Trump saw him as an ally he could use. The president, along with his attorney Rudy Giuliani, called Bowers just days after the election, claiming it was stolen.
And then, boom, president comes on. He said, well, unfortunately, we've got a lot of fraud all across the country. And then Rudy says, well, we've heard that there's an arcane law in Arizona that the legislature has the authority that if a legislature feels that there's doubt in the election, that they can set aside the Biden electors and send the Trump electors to Washington. I said, wait a minute.
Right.
I've never heard of that before. That's a new one on me.
So is it clear in your mind that President Trump basically wanted you to overturn the result in Arizona?
Of course he did. I mean, he wanted me to send him in.
A proud conservative Republican with a deep Christian faith, Rusty Bowers knew he had only one option.
And I said, Mr. President, I campaigned for you, I walked for you, and I voted for you. But I will do nothing illegal for you. I will do nothing illegal for you.
Rusty Bowers was praised for his principled stand. But there's only one trajectory for Republicans like him who stand up to Donald Trump. The former president's supporters made sure Bowers' career in the party and in politics soon came to an end.
I paint with different media, oil paints and watercolors.
Rusty Bowers now spends much of his time painting landscapes of his beloved Arizona.
I've done a lot of things wrong in my life. But I didn't do that one wrong.
Right.
And I think that all things considered, we'd just do the same thing again.
I don't think we can count on that in the future. People have been tremendously intimidated. People fear for their lives based on the Trump supporters threatening people. So we're in a very dicey point in American history.
How vile were some of the threats that you got?
Oh, they'd kill me and kill my family. My children would never see a day of peace for the rest of their lives.
Wow.
Rusty Bowers isn't the only person whose life was threatened and career destroyed as a result of Donald Trump's concerted attempts to overturn the 2020 election. Like Arizona, Georgia in 2020 went down to the wire. Once again, it's another key battleground state in this November's election.
Lay down. Lay down. I'm Richard Barron. I was the director of elections in Fulton County, Georgia. I served for 9 years, and I was a target of Donald Trump's attempt to overturn the 2020 election.
Fulton County is the most populous county in the state of Georgia. In 2020, Trump lost the state to Joe Biden by less than 12,000 votes. So just like he did with Rusty Bowers, the defeated president called Georgia's Secretary of State and demanded he overturn the result.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani then made false claims that CCTV footage of Richard Barron's election workers proved they were engaged in fraud, sparking a barrage of death threats.
The threats that first started were coming into our office. Both my voicemail and my emails were just flooded. And then we got the bomb threat.
Can you play me some of the threats that you received?
Sure.
Time's running out, Richard. We're coming after you and every motherfucker that stole this election with our Second Amendment. Subpoena be damned. You're going to be served lead, you fucking enemy communist. You will be served lead. Y'all will blow your brains out, you piece of shit. If you have a hand in this, you deserve to go to prison. You actually deserve to hang by your goddamn soy boy skinny ass neck. Hey, Rick, I'm one of your constituents here and watched that hearing yesterday, and it's quite alarming. Is it the firing squad? Is it hanging for treason? Holy, you better run. That's all I gotta say.
Donald Trump has been charged over his attempt to overturn the Georgia result, and at some point could face a criminal trial. Given what we saw in 2020, is there a concern that Donald Trump will once again either claim before, during, or after that the election itself has been rigged or stolen?
I think he's already claiming that because he keeps saying if everything is honestly done, except the results. Well, that means if he wins. I mean, he's already laying the groundwork for it.
history of black Americans in Georgia dates back to the earliest days of slavery. By the 1960s, Atlanta, the birthplace of Martin Luther King, had become a major organising centre of the civil rights movement.
We need educated voters, right? Because our future depends upon it. Amen? My Lord.
Georgia is one of the big 7 swing states that will determine the next president of the United States.
I know.
And it's the black vote that's likely to decide the result.
We gotta stay alert.
That's correct.
And staying alert means that we cannot fall asleep, but we must be actively engaged in processes that will help us to do our Father's will.
Sometimes I think about African Americans as the conscience of the United States. When things are really going south, that's when people stand up and say, we want to participate or we should participate.
We'll be the children who go ahead and take care of us. Amen, somebody.
Amen.
James Gaiman runs Souls to the Polls, a non-partisan church-run program that encourages black Americans to register and turn out to vote.
Some of y'all ought to be looking it up right now.
My favorite line is, tell me who is the most powerful. Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, even LeBron James. I mean, that one day you're equal. And that's election day. And then they all come back, well, maybe my one vote won't matter. I said, that's the beautiful thing. It's not just one vote. You are part of a coalition that's 821 churches strong.
So you nearly ready, you guys? 10 seconds.
I'm Whit Ayers, president of North Star Opinion Research, a GOP polling firm that has worked for good Republican candidates for over 30 years.
How crucial will the African American vote be in Georgia?
The African American vote is absolutely crucial in Georgia. It is a large portion of the electorate. The real question is whether you're going to have a significant turnout of African Americans.
In 2020, Joe Biden became the first Democrat to win Georgia in almost 3 decades. And he did it by the narrowest of margins, just 0.2%. But to the surprise of many, Trump is making significant inroads into this crucial demographic.
Oh, it was lovely to meet you.
How are you? Thank you. Good. And within that demographic, it's young, aspirational black men like former US Army officer Azad Ahmadi, who Trump is winning over.
I grew up in a house full of Democrats. I was an Obama voter, and no doubt. What's driving Black Americans relative to the way they're going to cast their vote, I think what's driving them is their wallet, and they associate the last time that they had a strong wallet and a strong dollar in their pocket was under the Trump administration. And so I think that's ultimately what's going to get people to pull the lever for Donald Trump in the next election.
Azad Ahmadi says there's another factor that's attracted him to Trump: his clear messaging and his Georgia mugshot.
The mugshot, we've all seen the mugshot. And you know who embraced it more than anybody else? The black population. I'm being indicted for you, the black population. We are one movement, one people.
Does that speak to you?
The incarceration of Black Americans is something that's a strong influence on our culture, you know. And if I'm just frank, Donald Trump has done a good job at being relatable.
It's offensive. as a black man, as a man of faith, that is absolutely offensive. Donald Trump has no idea what it's like to be a black man. So now you're saying that, all black people were criminals.
Just one thing. Let's make a quick assessment.
I have met every president since Bill Clinton. And my favorite is George W. Bush. Hi, I'm Camilla Moore, and I'm chairman of the Georgia Black Republican Council, Republican all my life, and I think Donald Trump will go down as one of the greatest presidents in history. Go Trump.
Camilla Moore believes Donald Trump offers more to black Americans than any Democrat candidate ever could.
Who can make your dream come true? It's Donald Trump. So when he got elected, almost every promise he made, whether it was to the people that wanted to drill, baby, drill, they got to drill, right?
Wow. We're doing record numbers with the African American voters.
Some people in the black community say Donald Trump's a racist. Is Donald Trump a racist?
Absolutely not. Haiti proves my point. I had a national media outlet interview me and said, well, it's obviously he's a racist because he just said that Haiti was a shithole. And do you not feel that his comment about Haiti being a shithole, very racist? I'm like, no, because Haiti is a shithole. And I'm like, anybody who looks at Haiti knows it's a shithole.
Do I stay on top of the boat and get electrocuted? Or do I jump over by the shark and not get electrocuted?
Donald Trump's inflammatory language and often rambling rhetoric is celebrated by his supporters as a strength. But for Joe Biden, his fade-outs created a perception of frailty.
So long as it's denied, our freedom can never be secured.
Much has been made of the verbal gaffes, the physical spills, and awkward pauses committed by America's oldest president.
Mr. President, thank you.
Representative Jackie here. Where's Jackie? I don't think she was going to be here.
This is a guy who says hello to dead congresswomen who died 3 months ago and thinks they're actually in the room. If you're saying hello to dead people, it's frightening because 24/7 within 30 feet of that man is the nuclear football. He can press a button and initiate Armageddon, and he's talking to dead people.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Well, he's right. He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death.
So bad was Biden's performance during this campaign that many senior Democrats worried that it would lead the party to electoral oblivion and the loss of not only the White House, but of the Congress as well.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin.
Eventually, the pressure on Biden became too great, forcing him to declare that it was in the best interest of his party and the country for him to stand down, and endorsing his vice president, Kamala Harris, to run in his place.
We need kind of new ideas at that level of government. Maybe not necessarily somebody much younger, but that generation kind of they've had their chance, and we can see what's happened as a result of it. And so for me, it's about just getting some fresh blood in general, some new ideas in there.
One candidate has fallen victim to his own gaffes and perceived decline.
In Venezuela.
But Donald Trump is also not immune to tripping over words and veering off into sometimes personal and puzzling anecdotes.
We have to get it done. We have no choice, actually. We have to get it done. Together, we're going to defend our freedoms. And they said this thing with the golden shower. And I said, I didn't care about the other stuff. The other stuff was, nuclear. And this, I didn't worry about that. The golden shower was a problem for me. And I said to our great First Lady Golden, she said, nope, That one you didn't do. See, I'm a germaphobe. She said, that one you didn't do. So she knew immediately I had no problem there. I said, whew, that was a close one. That wasn't good.
Well, Trump is the gaffe machine. It's a word salad whenever he talks. It's really unnerving. And I think Trump is showing real signs of diminished capacity.
And I had to explain that to our great first lady.
I mean, his mind is as sharp can be. And he's like the Energizer Bunny. So, to me, he's thriving.
This election is exposing cavernous fault lines in an America riven by class, race, and geography. The one thing many Americans agree on is fear. Fear that this country will be even more divided come November. And fear that this election will once again take the country to the brink.
And I really wish I'm wrong when it comes to what this country looks like in 20 years. Because it's on the trajectory of being more divided than it is now. And I just don't see that getting any better anytime soon.
We hear a lot about the divisions in the United States. How divided is the United States now?
Very divided and more polarized than it's ever been. And the U.S. rates itself on a scale from 0 to 100 at a 75 in terms of civil war. People think this country is close to civil war. People think this country could go into civil war.
This election here, if it goes the way I think it is, we're going to war. You'll see the second civil war in this country. I think it's over.
I am the one saving democracy for the people of our country.
After Donald Trump's dishonorable departure from the presidency almost 4 years ago, few expected a political resurrection quite like this.
So tonight, with faith and devotion, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States. Thank you.
If the election were held today, Donald Trump would win a landslide in the Electoral College. But there's such distaste for both of these candidates that you just get the feeling that something's going to happen between now and November that will have a substantial effect on the outcome.
Donald Trump will win. I'm 100% certain of that. Trump's my man for 2024.
What are the implications for American democracy if Donald Trump goes back into the White House?
It scares the hell out of me for the future of my kids. I would hate that, and it would divide our country even worse than it has already.
Well, thank you everyone for being here and watching this. I was so involved is that I was like, oh my God, it's already over. They did a good job in covering this. You're very welcome, T Lounge. You did a very good job covering it. What I want to share quickly too before we go, Four Corners Media. Four Corners Media is a documentary production company that did this part 1 and part 2, focused on short form and long form storytelling. But it talks about the gentleman, Micah Guerin and Marie. But with Michael Guerin, he's an American documentary filmmaker and journalist whose work has focused on conflict zones in the Middle East and Afghanistan. He survived a kidnapping ordeal in Iraq in 2004. So these people have put something so great together. I'm so glad to have shared that together with everybody. And I'll see you soon.